Hi, everybody. Bill Rentschler alongside Megan Conway in the 1011 Now streaming studio for another edition of Juice Box Chats. One
So
parent
fun.
talking to another parent about all things parenting, children, all that stuff.
All the craziness, trying to find some hacks, tips, advice, bringing on some experts, which we're doing today. So, we're just talking about all the things.
Yeah. And this week, obviously, we talked on Wednesday. We talked on Thursday.
Yep.
It's all kind of back to school themed. May not always be back to school themed.
Right.
But back to school themed. And so we talked about just kind of general back to school feelings and emotions.
Yes.
We talked about kind of keeping kids safe. Good touch points to talk about now that we're back to school. Today, talking about something that's super important, sleep.
Yes.
A whole new sleep routine now that we're out of the summer, back into the school year. For both parents and adults, it can be difficult.
Yes.
Or for parents and kids.
I knew what you meant. You're okay. Yeah, it's okay. But yeah, for those kids, it's just so important to get them into a routine, make sure they're getting ample sleep, and, just setting them up for success for their school day so that they can learn and have fun with their friends and be a happy kiddo.
Yeah. I mean, you don't get enough sleep. You just start the next day and you're dragging. And when, you got 8 hours to, go do math and diagram sentences and all sorts of crazy things.
Yes.
It can be really tough if you're working from a deficit.
Absolutely.
Again, my house, Megan, during the summer, kind of 9 o'clock is probably about bedtime.
Okay.
But school year, we kind of kicked that back to 8 o'clock. My kids are still young enough that they still generally listen to us when...
Generally. Key word in that sentence.
Yes, generally.
Yeah. See, for our house, it's been a little different, because this is the first year that we have a school-age child. So we are in day 3 of the routine. Or I guess technically day 4. Sorry, I can't count. She started on Tuesday. Day 4 of the routine. But actually, my kids, with this new routine with school, are getting to sleep in a bit compared to what they were experiencing with daycare.
There you go.
Yeah, so with daycare, they had to be up earlier, at daycare earlier, so dad could go to work sooner because, of course, I'm here in the morning, so I'm not a part of, the getting ready and going for the day and the drop-off at daycare. I do all the picking up. So they actually are getting about an hour to an hour and a half later start now that school has started, and we're keeping bedtime at the same, same time. And like you said, we're about the 8 o'clock. That's what we try and shoot for because I need to go to bed at 8 o'clock. And so as soon as they're down, I go to bed too.
That's when I start my pre-sleep at 8 o'clock, helping put the kids to bed, and then maybe wake up for a little bit, putz around, put some laundry away, and then go back to bed.
So you take a little nap?
It's pre-sleep.
A pre-sleep.
Yeah.
Okay,
pre-sleep.
That's a fun term.
Yeah, it
pre-sleep.
is. And so obviously, Megan and I do not have any sort of medical background. To necessarily talk, just experience with small children, but we did get a hold of an expert, someone who could talk a little bit more expertly on this.
Yeah, we can talk about our routines and what works for us.
Yes.
But is it right?
Rebecca's about to tell us. We have Rebecca Reicks, APRN, to kind of give us a little background. We have some questions. Rebecca, maybe she might tell us that we're doing it all horribly wrong. I hope not, but we're going to find out. Rebecca, how are you doing? Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, no, it sounds like you guys are on the right track. So.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, we really appreciate you being with us here this morning. And just to kind of talk about a hurdle I feel like a lot of folks feel, a lot of parents feel when it comes to their kids is sleep.
Yes. The monster of sleep. I love this topic. I love that you're covering it. I'm an avid sleeper. I think it's the most important part of anybody's day. So yes, I'm glad that you're covering this for people.
And so, especially for kids, Rebecca, can you kind of walk us through why this is such an important thing? Looking back on it now, I was always a night owl, so I was like, I'm going to stay up late because it's what I want to do. But I think I was hurting myself a little bit in that regard.
Yeah. Yes. So getting adequate sleep for kids is so incredibly important because it is such an active time where their brains and their bodies are doing some of the most important work of the day. So while they're sleeping, their brains are processing everything they've learned in the day. Their emotions are being sorted and stored, and it's the highest rate of growth hormone release from pediatrics all the way to adolescence. And that's huge. That's helping with their brains growing, their muscles growing, everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, like you said, just a lot going on, and we need that sleep to to give our bodies a break.
I think we forget as adults just how much. It's like you're just in school, you're sitting there. There's so much more going on.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, not only are they, we talk about the learning aspect of it too, but also the social aspect.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be at their best. They want to make new friends, and put themselves out there. So, Rebecca, I know this varies at different ages, but how much sleep do you recommend for children to be having a successful school day?
Yeah, so in our preschoolers, we typically recommend about 10 to 13 hours in a 24-hour period. That's including naps.
I should be a preschooler.
No, I want to be a preschooler again.
Yeah.
Kids kind of start to drop that nap around age 4. So if they kind of start to buck the nap time, getting around that age 4, don't force it. It's totally normal. That's about the time. Sometimes they still take naps in kindergarten. I wish we could still take naps at work. But for for our elementary kids, the recommendation is about 9 to 12 hours a night. And then for our teens, we recommend about 8 to 10 hours a night, which is still more than what is like with adults, we're saying like 7 to 8, right? So it matters because the consistency, the research shows that kids who regularly meet these sleep ranges have a better attention span, they have better mood regulation, they tend to perform better in school, their immune functions are better. Teens in particular often need more sleep than what we realize because their bodies and brains are still so rapidly developing. Even though they kind of look adult-sized, they are still so rapidly developing.
And Rebecca, as parents, I think we can see our kids and we can kind of tell maybe something's off. But are there signs that maybe we should be looking for that may, especially now that school started, that like, hey, maybe we're not getting enough sleep and something maybe needs to change?
Yes. So yeah, there's the obvious ones like the early morning battle. So like if it feels like you're dragging a hibernating bear out of a cave, that's your red flag. That's a sign they're not getting enough sleep. The obvious mood swings, irritability, meltdowns, we know those. Something that sometimes maybe you don't really think of, or you just think it's just how they are. If they're having trouble focusing on homework, not everything is ADHD. It could be very much sleep related. If they're spacing out in conversations, they just don't seem like they're, present in the conversation. That's pretty common. Clumsiness or forgetfulness. So like if they're tripping on things, if they're dropping more things, they're forgetting instructions that you maybe had just told them, that's a sign. They're not necessarily ignoring you. There's a good chance, but they're not necessarily ignoring you. They could just be tired. And I think the biggest ones are behavior changes. So acting impulsively, being hyperactive or unusually defiant. Sometimes sleep loss in kids looks more like hyperactivity than drowsiness. I would say more so in our little guys, but still true for adolescents, for teens. And for teens, I would say probably one of the bigger ones is when they catch up on sleep. So sleeping several extra hours on the weekends, that's a sign that their weekday schedule is just not meeting their needs.
So it kind of sounds like you're telling me I shouldn't be sleeping in on the weekends.
I know. Not going to make many friends with that one.
And you also don't make it to the farmer's market, Bill.
We've done the farmer's market once. When Mom had to work on a Saturday, I took them once. But Jamie was upset because the churro stand wasn't there. That's a whole other can of worms that has nothing to do with sleep, though. And so it does seem kind of counterintuitive, though, the hyperactivity kind of being a sign. We in my house we say they've reached full tilt.
Full tilt.
Yeah,
I love that.
We call it the point of no return.
Yes, it very much is.
Yes. I want to go back really quickly to one thing you mentioned in your previous answer too, that I think a lot of parents really care about, of course, is that sleep supports your immune system. And we all know that sicknesses get quickly passed around at schools and that children are not good about washing their hands and, using enough soap. And that sleep is just so important to keeping those kids healthy physically like that.
Yep. It is probably one of the more important tools in the toolbox. Obviously, you can lead the kids to the sink, but you can't make them wash their hands the right way every time. They are little germ boxes, and the less sleep they get, the more likely they are to be down and out for longer periods of time when they get these colds. The more sleep they get, the more time their body has to regenerate. As far as like all the enzymes they need, all the immune system functions to just kind of rebuild up for the day. So important for their health.
I think I know I've seen it. I'm sure you've probably seen it in the evening. We're a little flush. We're a little warm.
Yep.
Put those kids to bed early, and then all of a sudden the next morning they wake up and it's like nothing was even wrong 12 hours ago.
Oh, yeah. They like spike a little low-grade fever for a couple hours. I check on them in the night, and then they're fine again. And I'm like,
boom.
Oh, okay.
Nothing was ever wrong.
Nope.
And so, Rebecca, any common kind of myths about kids' sleep that you would like to maybe bust while we have you here?
Yeah, so there's a few. I think one of the more common ones is if they're tired, they're going to fall asleep. And I said that, and I think that's just mainly us giving up. It's not true. We kind of already talked about it. Overtired kids often get more wired, and they're harder to settle down. They reach full tilt. Their stress hormone cortisol starts to release when they get to this overtired point. So that's when it becomes a battle.
That is a good one. We often call the zoomies.
Yep.
When they get really tired. That's what we call it at our house, because they are just starting to do laps around the house. I'm like, what did we put in the supper? Like, oh my goodness.
Zoomies is what we say for our dogs when our dogs start doing
that.
But
we have dogs too. So yeah, we just use it as a universal term for everything, all the little humans and animals.
Rebecca, any advice for parents who have kids who are struggling to fall asleep? Again, my oldest, he'll tell us to be quiet when we're reading the story because he's ready to go to bed, and he turns over and he's out. My youngest is like me, and he's a night owl, and you can lay with him for an hour and read stories, and he's still just like going.
Yeah.
So please help me.
Well, one, that's totally normal. During adolescence, our brain's internal clock, it's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It naturally delays melatonin release by about 1 to 2 hours in our adolescence. So, and that's compared to like the small kiddos and adults. So they often don't feel tired until like 11 midnight, and that's just normal. The problem is that school doesn't start later in the day because of that. It's early wake up time for school. Then we kind of build this chronic sleep debt because of that. So again, I'm not going to make many friends here, but putting the screens away at least 30 to 60 minutes before bedtime for the kids and for the adults. I think one of the biggest things, especially with like our school age kids and our teenagers, in life in general, we need to practice what we preach. So we gotta model the same behavior that we're asking from our kids. It's greater chance for success all around, right? So consistent bedtimes, stopping screen time 30 minutes before bedtime, limiting the amount of caffeine you are getting, the kids are getting to the morning. Hopefully kids aren't getting any caffeine, but if they are, limiting it to very early afternoon. It has a huge effect on kids. I would say the other thing is you need a calm, cold, quiet, and dark environment to kind of trigger your brain and trick your brain into calming the nervous system and getting it to release that melatonin when you want it to, basically on cue. And the key is just being consistent. If you are doing the same things on the same schedule every night, you kind of trick that internal clock to adjust to where you want it. And if they're laying in bed and they're still restless, quiet time is not the same as sleep. It's good, but some things that you can kind of start to teach them is like rhythmic breathing. I've never made it past like 5 minutes of rhythmic breathing. I've always been out, where it's breathe in for 3 seconds, hold it for 3 seconds, breathe out for 3 seconds. Really effective for just kind of calming that nervous system and helping them get to that point.
Yeah, that is great advice for your kids. My kids, Rebecca, they're a little bit younger. I have a 5 and a 1-year-old. So the big hurdle that we're facing right now with my daughter, my 5-year-old, is sleeping in her own bed. So
I still am dealing with the same thing. So
are you okay?
Oh, yeah,
I guess it's going to be a while that
Yeah,
I'm sharing my bed. But she tries to go to sleep. She calls them big girl sleep. She wants to go to sleep in her own bed, and we read the stories in there. We tuck her in with all of her stuffed animals, set the environment right. We got a nightlight that's rainbowed that she loves. But the problem is she wakes up in the middle of the night, 1:30, 2:30, then can't fall back asleep on her own. So I don't know if you have any advice there. That's at the point when she runs into our room and she's there for the rest of the night. So
and it's disruptive for your sleep, but you just love it so much. It's hard. That's a hard battle. We also struggle with that. I would say, yes, the biggest thing is trying to keep that sleep space sacred for your own rest, because, you can't, I shouldn't say enforce, but you can't encourage these behaviors if you aren't rested yourself. So being consistent as far as if she comes into your room or the kids are coming into your room at night, kind of gently guiding them back, addressing whatever is the monster, the shadow, whatever it is they're concerned about, getting them back into their bed, and maybe just kind of sitting there with them. One good technique is you kind of slowly back yourself out of the room as they get used to sleeping in their room. So let's say they come into your bed every night. Well, for the first week, you're walking them back to their room and you are laying in their bed with them for 5 minutes, whatever, set the timer. Leave. If it starts over, do it all over again. You meet them in their bed. As they start to get used to that and they're not bucking that anymore, then you put them in their bed and you are standing maybe on the other side of the room. You're still in the room. You're still there. You just repeat the same things to them. I'm right here. It's time to go to bed. You need to get your rest. Close your eyes. Close your mouth. It's time to go to sleep. Just being very repetitive in that, but you're still in the room. Once they get used to that, then you stand next to the door and you repeat the same things. And they get used to it. And then once you get past that point, you're on the other side of the door and the door is closed. And when they're calling for you or when they try and get up, you stand there, you stop them, you say, I'm right here. Repeat the same thing. Eventually they know, that's their boundary and they respond well to it. It's just kind of the repetitive nature and the discipline to keep that up for as long as you need to for that behavior to take place.
See, the problem I have is, my kids go to bed in their own bed. That's not an issue anymore.
Okay.
It's that my oldest will wake up in the middle of the night, he's got to go to the bathroom or whatever. Lights are on, no one's home. He doesn't even know where he is in the house, and he just ends up wandering into our bed. And I don't know. It's not until I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I got a kid in the middle of the bed. And I didn't even know he showed up there. So
yeah,
if
it's
it's
so
not
hard.
one thing, it's another.
Yeah, no, for us it will definitely be like the advice you gave, Rebecca, using that, but then also being a little tougher on myself. Not just
it's
bringing
hard.
her in to cuddle
It's
and
hard.
putting her back in her bed. It is hard. You were talking about slowly leaving the room. With my 1-year-old, he lays in his crib really well. But he likes to have you still in the room until he falls asleep. So there are some nights I am army crawling out of his room. I know where the creaky spots are on the floor so that I can sneak out and not wake this baby boy up.
Yes.
Yes, because then with him, the process starts all back over. The rocking, the transferring to the crib and everything. So
I think that's one of life's most difficult things is to transfer the sleeping child from your arms into the crib.
100%.
Because it is such a delicate procedure.
Yes. And once you have to drop that crib lower for their safety so they can't crawl out, it makes it even harder. So,
Rebecca, we've obviously talked a ton about kids. Really also quickly want to touch for the adults, for the parents. I think I heard you say 7 to 8 hours is what would be good for us, but maybe tips, tricks for moms, dads, or just, people without kids who might have trouble sleeping at night.
People with fur babies.
Fur babies, right?
Yeah. So I think, again, the biggest thing is keeping that sleep space sacred. Don't bring your laptop into bed. Don't bring your phone into bed. If you, a lot of people say they like to fall asleep with the TV on. That's not really conducive for helping you reach that deep sleep. So turn the TV off. If you need noise machines, sound machines, kind of like what we use for our toddlers. But a cold, dark, quiet space blackout curtains if you need to. If there's outside noise on the street, getting some kind of sound machine to drown that out. And then again, turning those screens off, whatever it might be, at least 30 minutes to 60 minutes before you go to bed. And then I'm just not going to make any friends today. I know we love our babies, but when the dog gets prime real estate of the bed, that's not ideal for your sleep. So kind of taking the babies out. If they are in the way of you rolling over in bed, you're waking up at night. So it's kind of, I know we love them, but your sleep is important.
You would be very upset if you came to my house. There are three dogs in my bed.
Oh my gosh. Do you have like a California king times 2?
We had to upgrade to a king to accommodate all creatures.
2 adults, 2 kids, 3 dogs.
There is very rarely 2 adults and 2 kids in the bed. There is very commonly at least 2 adults and 3 dogs in the bed.
That is a full bed. That is a full bed.
It is a very furry, fuzzy bed. We have to change sheets like twice a week just to get the dog hair out.
I bet. Well, Rebecca, unless there's anything else you want to add, we really appreciate you being here and giving us all the advice and tips, and hopefully we can help some folks out get a little bit more sleep, a little healthier routine for the whole family.
Yeah. No, thank you guys so much for having me on.
And I guess I'll ask real quick, if someone is struggling either for themselves or with kids, what's the best place for maybe them to reach out to maybe get some help?
Yeah, well, come see me. So I am down at CHI Yankee Hill Family Practice. Really, any family practice provider can help you work through these, can help you kind of establish that healthy sleep routine. The research is there. We can help you walk through it. But, I mean, I love talking about sleep, so you can always come see me.
Well, that sounds wonderful. Rebecca Reicks, again, APRN with CHI Health. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, that was such a good interview.
Yes.
Learned a lot.
So
We
much
covered
good
a lot of ground.
information. Now, will I get any more sleep? I mean, fingers crossed. I'm going to try. I'm going to try. But
we will do our very best.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, that wraps up another edition of Juicebox Chat. So appreciate everyone for tuning in and watching again. As always, hope you learned a little bit. I know I did today. Again, stay tuned next week. I mean, we're kind of figuring out what our schedule looks like with this. So.
And even if you didn't learn anything today, maybe you feel seen. You are not the only one struggling to put the kiddos to bed or to have an empty bed to yourself. You know, we're right there with you too. So
100%, absolutely. So appreciate everyone for tuning in and watching. As always, make sure you keep tuned to 1011 both on air and online. Until next time, hope everyone has a nice weekend.